have a metaphysical dispute and they're going to bring up time, they better be prepared, to bring a cogent explanation as to what time is.
Exactly.
And 99% of them they're deer in headlights. They couldn't tell you.
Yep.
I was just reading in Mullen's book on time. He was referring to Jesus speaking in the Beatitudes, and I was blown away how he took. And you see, I don't know to what extent Mullins is a Bible-believing Christian, although he represents himself as that. I know he doesn't believe in young Earth creationism, but be that as it may, I was blown away. He used certain statements by Jesus to blow away certain concepts of time that people have, like eternalism. Like all moments of time exist at the same time. And he points out what Jesus said is in the Beatitudes, where we're gonna suffer and then we're gonna be comforted. And he said, this blows away this idea, this philosophical concept of eternalism. And I was very impressed how he just took some basic scripture verses out of the words and mouth of Jesus to blow away some of these views on time. It was really good.
Yeah. By the way, like a lot of people, Darth. So I've done like the whole mystery thing as an experiment when I was talking to an atheist once, right? Then I found him saying, well, because you don't know, then atheism must be true. But then I told him that's atheism of the gaps fallacy, right? Even though,
that's just stupid. You don't know what?
Yeah, he was saying like, how can there be, it was sort of like, how can you, divine foreknowledge and free will, right? Even though there's an explanation for it, like middle knowledge and Molinism. But I just said, let's go with the appeal to mystery here and see what happens. So, then you have a contradiction.
No, it's not necessarily a contradiction. It's just that our limited human knowledge and perspective is not able to resolve an apparent difficulty.
Exactly. That's what I told him. But then he that's what I told him after he said that then atheism must be true. Then
not at all. Well, first of all, remember what I said. They're making a basic error in modal logic. Mm-hmm. So there are two types of necessity. There's the necessity of the consequence and the necessity of the consequent. Okay?
Yeah.
So in the necessity of the consequence, B follows A because A caused B. Mm-hmm. Okay? So B is the consequence of the cause of A. Mm-hmm. The other view of is that B will follow A. Necessarily, it will follow A, but A does not cause B.
Yeah.
So that's called the consequent. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's not consequence; it's the consequent.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And so. Read Craig's book, The Only Wise God.
The Only Wise God. Yeah.
Refresh your memory on that because he handles that. I don't know if he goes into the term the consequent and the consequent, but it's just an error in modal logic that if God possesses the truth value of a future tense proposition, it doesn't mean that you are fated to do that. You will do it, but you are not fated to do that.
Yeah.
And God simply knows the truth value of what you will freely choose. And were you to choose otherwise, he would simply know the truth value of that.
I try to explain this to them, and it just like goes right over their head.
They don't care. They simply, they're like little children. No.
Yeah, I thought one way to maybe say it is we could say, well, even if God knows everything ahead of time and chooses his plan for the world, nothing is actually accomplished apart from our actions, choices, and partnership with God. How his plan. So it's like part of God's plan, basically, that we have choices and we can have actions.
So this objection about free will and foreknowledge, this is adolescent reasoning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I remember years ago, and I would say to myself when I was younger and not as well read as I am now, which is not speaking very much, but I used to say, well, if God knows what sandwich I'm gonna make in the next 10 minutes, then did I really choose it? And then I thought to myself, of course I'll choose it. It just simply doesn't matter how I know He knows that I will freely choose it. It doesn't mean that I am fated to do so. It just simply means He possesses the truth value of what I will freely choose. Okay?
Yeah.
Now this may seem paradoxical. So what?
Yeah.
Who cares?
So what? Exactly. Who cares? Exactly. You know, Darth, have you read Darth, the book called Paradox in Christian Theology by James Anderson?
No, I haven't, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, Anderson actually appeals to mystery when it comes to the Trinity and the Incarnation, right? And he says that that's perfectly fine when we appear, because we could say it appears to be inconsistent, but it's not a true contradiction.
Well, it's simply it's above our pay scale to
Exactly.
comprehend it.
Yeah.
So I know what he
So-
means by mystery. I would try to shy away from that, but I'm not saying it's wrong to do so, because they'll just try to, think that that's special pleading, but it's not special pleading. It's understandable that God is so vast that there are just some things that we just cannot comprehend.
Exactly. And Darth, James Anderson actually says in the book that as long as you have an independent justification for your belief in, for example, let's say the Trinity, of why it must be true, right? And he'll offer like the unity and diversity argument, like the transcendental argument for the Trinity, right? Then we can. It's perfectly fine to just appeal to mystery and say, yeah, it must be true, but it's above our pay scale to explain it perfectly and metaphysically, right?
Yeah,
Right?
not all attempted defeaters are of the same caliber.
Yep.
Okay, merely making an argument, like somebody said to me, "Oh, how did the penguins get to Antarctica?" And I just said, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And Darth,
I said there could have been. There's the idea that during the ice age that followed the worldwide flood, then Southeast Asia there was a greater degree of land bridges because the water table was much lower, and the various land bridges that were there could have allowed animals to cross over to that. Another thing is that there would have been a greater degree of what we call log mats after the flood. Have you ever heard of that, log mats?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, so at the time of the flood, the vegetation of the earth was probably vastly greater by orders of magnitude than what we can imagine in our contemporary world.
Yeah.
And so with the flood, you would have had a ripping up of all of these trees in the flood and would be floating on the oceans and might be floating for many, many, many years before they finally succumbed or deteriorated or broke down. So these floating log mats could serve the purposes of transporting even creatures like penguins.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. Right, and that's not special pleading. If you take a look at the explosion at Mount St. Helens, you can see a section where it ripped up all these trees, and they're all together, and they're referred to as log mats.
Yep.
So, not all defeaters are the same. Like if I said to you, well, the eyewitnesses contradict themselves in the Titanic. Some say the Titanic split in half. Others say they didn't see it split in half. So therefore, the Titanic didn't sink. And you're going to go, well, that's a ridiculous defeater.
That's correct. Yeah.
It's not robust.
Yeah. So Darth, like one can take so Darth, can we so when atheists always try to bring these apparent inconsistencies, right? We can just easily say it's above our pay scale, right? And
well, how about this? You could just hit them with the nuclear option and saying you're wielding the law of non-contradiction. Where'd you get the law of non-contradiction from?
How do you justify it, right, or something like
Well, you see, we can appeal to the law of identity and non-contradiction because it reflects the nature and character of God and how He implemented this world. Mm-hmm. Where do they get the law of non-contradiction?
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is I confronted that. You know the guy Jeff for Truth. You know that clown.
Yes. I know that.
Yeah, I've confronted him twice, and each time he ran away from me. I said, "How do you account for the law of non-contradiction in order to weaponize that and use it against the Bible?" He goes, "Well, it just is. That's just the way things are." And I said, "That's not a justification at all. You're making a declaration." And he didn't even let me get to this. Just to show you what a low information person he is.
That's like what